So, without further ado, singer, business consultant, entrepreneur, and two-time Grammy nominee, Bobby Graziosi.
Thank you. Ay. All right, first thing I have to do though, wait, we gotta get this, I gotta put this on Foursquare, so I need everybody to smile for a minute. Hold on, let's start on this side. There we go, and let's use another one. Okay, this side? Thank you, okay. All right, a lot of eyeballs out there. Okay, so today we're actually going to talk about a redesign, whether or not you need a redesign. But the first thing I want to do is ask, let's take a poll. Who has launched a new site or redesigned a site within the last 12 months? Raise your hand. Wow. How about in the last 24 months? How about in the last 36 months? We got to talk. Okay, so today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about whether or not you need a redesign, and then some of the elements that go into creating a redesign. So let's start with welcome, and then let's look at who we are, because we're going to talk a little bit about BFM first. We have to make sure we get in a couple of plugs, so just FYI. Who is BFM? We're your partner for digital growth. What does that mean? Well, first of all, we're a firm with a passion for building online businesses. That's what we do at BFM. We take an idea and we build it into a business, and we do it in a number of different ways. And here's some of the ways that we do it. We start with digital strategy, we provide creative design, we do web app and development, and online marketing. All these things come together to take a holistic approach to rebuilding or building a business. Let's look at our team. We have a very diverse team, and we come from a wide variety of business and cultural backgrounds. So here in New York, we've got 97 employees, and worldwide we have another 90 to make us just under 200 employees. We take a team approach. That's me. And we use a team consisting of a creative strategist, senior designers, information architects, project managers, marketing managers, and all under the jurisdiction of an account director. Your account director is your main point of contact. They're the one that drives the BFM team. So today's question is, to design or not to redesign? That is the question, right? So you may need a redesign if you haven't refreshed your site in the last 24 or 36 months, if your conversions are weak, if you're still using Flash, which we all know is not compatible with the iOS. So we're going to take a look at some statistics about redesign. And for instance, first and foremost, 94% of first impressions are design related. 75% judge a company's credibility based on their website's design. 40% of users will abandon a website if it takes more than 3 seconds to load. And 48% arriving on a site with a bad mobile experience. We've all talked about mobile today, and we're going to continue to talk about mobile. But 48% say that if they come to a site with a bad mobile experience, they're going to bounce. So you have to ask yourself some questions. Number one, how is my site converting? Am I seeing growth in my sales or my leads? If I have site traffic of 1 million people a month and I only get one sale, not so much. But let's look at things like maybe my site looks like this. We've all seen these before, right? Okay. Hopefully not. Another very important question is, how do my employees feel about my site? How do they feel about my brand? Are they proud of it? When they go to business meetings, when they go to networking events, are they saying things or hearing things from the rest of the company like this? Right? The ones that are laughing know what I'm talking about. Okay. So the next step is let's take a look at what the approach should be to a redesign. First of all, you must be strategic and tactical. And like I like to say, don't throw darts. What we want to do is take an informed approach and start with things like a project plan. Now, I know we all say that this is, of course we're going to start with the project plan, but more and more when we're speaking to clients, we find that that's not really the case. They have an idea of where they want to go. They have some idea of how they want to roll this plan out, but they don't always follow through. So what we'd like to do is start in the first phase with discovery, research, and planning. And what does that mean? First of all, you need to do a site audit. A site audit is going to do a number of things for you. The objective is really to understand the status of your digital property and all your digital assets, and look at things like usability, traffic analysis, the speed at which your site loads, your audience behavior, segmentation, and conversion rate optimization. These things are all things that you look at in an audit to make sure that you understand what your landscape is. The next thing we're going to do is clearly outline all your digital marketing efforts. You need to know how your SEO is performing, how your paid search is performing, what's going on in social media marketing. What about your content strategy? Look at your content, understand if it's really resonating with your visitors, and also contains the keywords that you really want to be found for. And then we create a strategy. So the strategy really lays the groundwork for a website build. It defines the website's core audience. It outlines key web elements. So things like, do I need a search? Do I want to have social media feed on the site? Do I want to have anything else that's going to help drive my user into a conversion? And then, of course, it informs the planning and design of the website. UX and UI is something that should not be overlooked and is becoming more and more important in the way that a website is perceived by your visitors, and also, of course, the usability of that website. So what most people do is they get the coolest people that they know, and they stick them in a room like this with lots of Red Bull and Dunkin' Donuts, and hope at the end they don't come out with something that looks like this. And this is typically what happens if you don't take an approach for UX that is going to really resonate with your users. So let's look at the way that we do it. First, we bring in, sorry, I went a little fast, an information architect. An information architect is going to lay out all the website elements. So during your redesign, what you want to do is think about, what's my current site map? How has it been working? What areas of the site have actually been working for my users, and which ones have not? So you do a site map. Seems obvious. But you know what? When you really start to drill down and look at the pages that you have within your site currently and where they need to go, this becomes the project plan right here in a nutshell. Once you have that, the next thing you do is you build wireframes. These wireframes, again, lay out all the real estate of the site, all the features, all the modules, and following best practices for UX UI. So some tips for UX UI. Number one, it should be a balance of user input or qualitative information and data-driven quantitative information. It's got to be a balance. It can't lean too heavily in one side or another. And then simplify your navigation. The amount of options and paths should always be and never overwhelm the user. We're talking about keeping navigation simple. Very important. And also keep the site architecture flat. You never want to be more than 2 or 3 clicks from the top. You know, more and more we're finding that, in fact, many sites are going in the direction of a single deep scroll page. I'm sure you've all seen these now, especially with your mobile device, where you don't have to actually click. You're just scrolling down. Or when you do click a navigation item, it's actually scrolling you to a place within that page. And the advent of mobile technology has really kind of helped push that along. And make sure that if you do have a profile page or an account page for a user, that it's on every single page, it's easy to navigate to, and it's globally available. Okay, so let's look at the discovery and planning outcome. These are the things that we want to make sure that we find out during discovery and planning. We want to make sure that we have a site map and wireframes. We want to make sure that our messaging and tone of voice has been clearly defined. So during this audit and during these strategies, we're going to be looking at your brand pillars. We're going to be looking at all the things that the brand represents. We want to make sure that we define that tone of voice. Make sure that you have the proper keywords and imagery for your content that is going to resonate with your viewers. If you are a company that sells luxury, you want to take one approach. If you're a company that sells services, you're a professional services organization, you're going to take another. So make sure all of that imagery and the content you're providing is relevant. You want to outline your key calls to action and you could have many of them within a page. I'm going to show you an example later of continual calls to action throughout the deep scroll page. You want to make sure that those are outlined. And then, of course, you want to keep an eye on UX, UI. Now, once all that is done, now we can start thinking about creative. All we've done at this point is really built the blueprint. So before you go and build a house, you go to an architect. You don't go to a general contractor and say, build me a house. He's going to say, how many bedrooms do you want? What thickness sheetrock? What kind of cabinets? What kind of floors? You got to go to an architect first to get that blueprint before you can actually start to build that house. So now we're going to move into creative and design. Ask yourself some questions. Who are we as a company or a brand? Does the following represent who we are and what we want our customers to know we are? Like imagery, our typography, which is fonts, your site colors, your look and feel. All these things have to represent who you are. I have a statement that I like to make that design has to work. Here's an example. Art does not. Here's an example. Come on, I thought that was really funny. Nobody laughed. I was really counting on that one. That was my big moment. No, okay, whatever. All right. So make sure you use a professional graphic artist to interpret your wireframes. And the reason why we say that is that oftentimes the wireframes are created and then they're handed off to a developer to actually develop the site. And you really want to have that interface of a designer. And I know that this seems obvious, but it happens very often. And I can show you examples of sites that had good intentions, but were actually designed by the development team. So here's an example of a wireframe that was created. And then this is the outcome once the artist interpreted it. And you can see this here for desktop and for mobile. And you can see the key elements are all still here. It's just now taken on a shape with a coat of paint that is much more appealing. So let's put it all together. This is one of our clients who did a great job of outlining their content. They've got great information in here. It just wasn't visually appealing, and it needed a facelift. So what did we do? The first thing we did, we started off with a basic header with a logo, a local phone number to build trust. And then we started to build the page from there. The next thing we did, we brought the client's great tagline and some copy along with a visual representation of what the client does, and of course, a very strong call to action. The next part of the page actually now takes the different user pathways from the different personas or people that will be visiting the site, all looking for different information, and now we've taken those and laid them out nice and clearly. Again, calls to action, but not as strong because we don't want to dilute our conversions from your main call to action. The next step is to bring in the services. What do they do? Here it's laid out. We've got some iconography that follows the user through the site so they understand as they go from page to page these kind of relevant themes. Calls to action come back again to remind the user to go see that product. And then lastly, we put in our trust builders. These are logos of companies that are important to your visitors or potentially very well known, like in this case. So here's a before and after. Pretty impressive, right? So I'm going to show you some more before and after so you can kind of understand the approach of taking a nice attempt but making it better. Another nice attempt, but even better. So it's all about the imagery. Do you see how the imagery becomes so important in the way that it immerses you into this experience? Imagery is everything. If you take the Apple site and you strip away all those beautiful images that are airbrushed and beautiful, this site just takes on a completely different approach. It's a great exercise if you have Photoshop to do that one day. Lots of fun. And here's another. OK. So when you do a new site launch or when you're doing a redesign, one of the things that you might want to consider is if you're planning on doing a rebrand, this is a good time to do it. You take the same approach that you would when you're redesigning a site. You do an audit. You understand a strategy. You create all the information that's going to help kind of influence and then create these beautiful designs that you see here from our team. OK, Development. I'm going to quickly speak about development, not that it doesn't mean it shouldn't get the same amount of attention as everything else, just that development is very specific to business workflow, your growth plan, and launch timeline. So, you want to speak to a qualified company in development to determine the best technology, but let's look at a few things in development that are important during a redesign. Number one, you always want to use the most current technology available and that's within your price point. Now, obviously, HTML5 and CSS3 are free, so there's no reason why you shouldn't be up to date with this. You need to follow the most current and proven technology so you decrease your need to rebuild the site in the short term. The more recent the technology, the more time you're going to be able to have with your site before you have to do another redesign. Next, you want to build your site in responsive design. Many of you know what that is. However, Tracy's going to speak to that a little more later on in our presentation. Also, you want to choose a scalable CMS. What does that mean? If I'm building a site where I'm going to get a lot of site traffic, it's a brochure site, but I get hundreds of thousands of views every week, every month, you definitely don't want to build the site on WordPress. Not that WordPress is a bad platform, it's a wonderful platform, but there are certain CMSs that are better for certain applications. So you want to pick the one and have your information architect or your technical manager really look at these and make a decision based upon your specific needs and business flow. And don't forget, when you do a redesign, you must do your 301 redirects, have a solid URL structure, and meta descriptions. I'm sure you have questions about this. Your 301 redirects basically take the old content and the keywords that you were ranking for and tell Google that that's now over here. So it used to be over here in the old site, now it's over here. It's really important that you do that, otherwise you're going to lose your ranking on those specific keywords. URL structure is important not only for usability, but our understanding is that Google's also looking at the URL structure, and it definitely could affect PageRank. So you want to make sure that that's solid. And meta descriptions. If you search for a key term in Google, and it gives you that little paragraph in the search results, those are your meta descriptions. 155 characters. You want to make sure that those are all clearly defined for each page. So let's recap. Know your landscape, do an audit and a strategy. Take an informed approach to design and don't throw darts. And lastly, develop a forward-thinking CMS and technology platform so you don't lose what you had in the past. And now a shameless plug, an attempt at humor. Please consider us for your next project. Thank you. And the reason why is because we're in it for the long haul. Get it? Come on. Thank you very much.